You're listening to the What's Up Wednesday podcast from AAHAA Supportive Housing.
Welcome everyone to What's Up Wednesdays. I'm your host Mark Hampton at AAHAA Supportive Housing, and I'm here with Steve Kidd, one of our peer case managers, and I call him the Miracle Man. So Steve has, graced us enough to show up here and share his story and his testimony with us and you all out there, which I think will be a powerful one. I think there's a lot of things that folks can take away from this and provide hope for those who are trying to do the same thing. So thanks for coming, Steve. We sure appreciate you being here. Maybe you can start to tell us a little bit kind of about yourself and kind of how, when you started to notice that you had a problem maybe, and kind of how that began for you.
Really, at a young age, I was probably 15 years old when I first started using marijuana, and it was pretty much an everyday thing for me. It was just kind of a release because, from work and stress and everything else. And yes, I was working at 15. Not a lot of people were, but I was. So it really began at a young age, like I said. Kind of progressed from there. In my 21, when I turned 21, I started drinking a lot. And it was the thing I used to do pretty much every day after work, just as a release. But it started becoming more and more of a problem. So, I just continue.
Yeah.
I mean, so drinking and using marijuana was always kind of the thing I did. It wasn't until I broke my leg very badly. I had a bunch of surgeries that I got addicted to pain meds. And then, obviously, from there, pain medicine became a problem, and opiate.
So how old were you when you broke your leg?
27.
Okay. So when you started using when you were younger, was it alcohol first, then marijuana, or was it?
Marijuana first.
Okay.
Definitely.
So that's kind of like, a gateway drug for a lot of us. That was my first thing too, right? It was marijuana. And now that it's legalized, a lot of kids are doing it even more, right? And it seems like it's recreational and it's fun to do until it advances us forward into what you're about to share with us.
Right. Yeah. So the doctors put me on Oxycontin, and I was prescribed that for probably 2 years while I went through different surgeries. And then when that got cut off, it was kind of a wake up call. I knew I was pretty well addicted to Percocet and Oxy and everything like that, but I wasn't really aware of how bad the withdrawals would be. And when you feel sick, if you're really sick and you have the flu, and someone's like, "Oh, hey, here, this will make you feel better," and it did, obviously you're gonna continue. It's a vicious cycle. And so every time I try to stop, I could make it like maybe a day and a half before I was literally ripping my skin out and going and finding the dealer to buy heroin.
What did that feel like when you got sick? For some people have never done opiates, right? And maybe you've done other things, or folks that listen to us that maybe don't have an addiction issue, but curious about what that looks like because of their family member maybe suffering from this. How do you describe this?
I mean, it's just uncomfortable, like skin crawls. You can't get comfortable. Like you just don't feel well. Hot, cold. And it's one of those things where you could deal with it for so long, but unless you embrace the sickness, which is a hard thing to do, and just try to overcome it, by day one, by day two, you're most likely going to be calling your dealer to get well.
Gotcha.
And it's frustrating because the only time I was really able to get over that hump is when I was locked up. When I was in jail and I couldn't do it, there was nothing I could do about it. That's when I was able to overcome that 5-6 days you have to go through.
Yeah.
And it's different for everybody. Some people are sick for 2 weeks. It's a kind of at one point it's kind of a mental thing. You got to realize like, okay, I still don't feel all that great, but I could get by. I could get through it.
So when you're in jail, did they give you anything for the symptoms, or did you have to just kick it cold turkey?
Not until recently they started doing stuff in jail. So back then, they didn't give you anything. It was just cold turkey.
It was just suffering.
It was just, you got to just deal with it, and sometimes you didn't even want to get up to eat meals, the people in jail, they'll love you because they're eating your food. But other than that, it's like I said, it's a vicious cycle. And See, this last time I got locked up, they started doing medical assisted treatment where they put you on Suboxone, you know, but that still takes like a week to get onto it. So you're still going to deal with the withdrawal mostly, you know.
Sure.
So
Can you explain what Suboxone is and how it works for you, just so people can have an understanding of that?
So Suboxone is it's buprenorphine. It's basically a synthetic opioid that basically helps you with your withdrawal symptoms, and basically it's for maintenance. Like, so I take it every morning, and instead of, you know, basically having to call your dope man every day, you have a prescription. So it basically just helps you get, you know, that out of your head. It also has a blocker in it. So it's an opiate blocker. So if you decided, hey, I do want to get high today, you're not going to be able to get high because it's got that blocker. So it's kind of like a crutch. It just helps people in the beginning of early recovery stay clean, in my opinion.
That's awesome. Well, I've seen a lot of success with that, so you're a living testimony to that. Right?
Yeah, it's definitely a fine line, though, I would say, because like right now I'm trying to currently wean off of it, and I'm getting a little bit of kickback from where I get it from, basically telling me that it's working, maybe slow down. But at this point, I'm just kind of trying to. I think I'm ready. You know, I've been on it for a year. I think I'm ready to move forward as far as not needing it.
Good for you, Steve. So I want to ask you a question because I heard this. So I heard when you're detoxing off opiates, aka or heroin or whatever, it's right. When you talk about getting sick, so I heard once they said it feels like you're dying. Is that true?
I believe that withdrawal symptoms for everybody are different. There are some people that are on the extreme end where like literally they can't hold anything down. They're constantly puking or, you know, stuff's coming out both ends. It wasn't that way for me. It was just mainly just uncomfortableness of just feeling sick. Then I didn't feel like I was dying per se, but I mean, like I said, if you're feeling sick and someone goes, "Hey, do this, you'll feel better," you're gonna want to do that. Sure. You know what I mean? Like so. But yeah, I wouldn't say I felt like I was dying. I very low energy. It's hard to get motivated to do anything. I mean, I've gone through withdrawals where I was trying to pretend like I wasn't using anymore. I was down in Canyon Beach, Oregon with my family, and they wanted to go on hikes and do all this stuff. And I was literally, I had to gut through it, which I was able to do, but it was rough, you know? And it's like, I think back to that, I was like, well, you know, you can do anything if you put your mind to it, you know? But at the same time, it was a very uncomfortable 3 days, let me tell you.
It's probably the worst hikes you've ever been on, huh?
Yeah, unfortunately, I used the second I got home. I couldn't wait to get home, and I felt like it was so obvious to my parents and my family, but they never said anything about it. So
yeah. So let's kind of talk about you know, from the last time you were in jail, you got out Suboxone, kind of what happened then after that, and you know, kind of how you got to where you are now, what happened in between that maybe?
So, I mean, I had been through the treatment program before, like going to inpatient, and I was successful for a good amount of time and living in AAHAA. Fortunately, I relapsed, and instead of going back to treatment right away, I kind of screwed up, and there was a lot of things going on. You know, last time when I got clean, I didn't get I wasn't really doing outpatient. I didn't do intensive outpatient. I just kind of skipped that part. I wasn't working. I wasn't really doing anything to further myself as far as the next step. And I think that was my problem. This last time, after getting out of treatment, which I was blessed to be able to come back to AAHAA, which I didn't think that was going to work out, but they took me back, and you know, I pretty much started working with them the first couple, you know, weeks of being out of treatment, and I think that really helped me as far as get past the, you know, just the boring, you know, being overwhelmed and being bored at home. I think that's really what helped me as far as being successful this time, and obviously the medical assisted treatment I believe helped as well, because even if I did have any kind of inclination of like, oh, I could get high today or I could reward myself, it's like, no, it's not going to work because I'm on Suboxone, you know. And so I think that really helped. Yeah.
Okay. So do you mind if I share a story with the audience about when I saw you that time in the parking lot?
No.
Okay. So prior to Steve coming back, right? And this was, how long has that been? What did you say?
It's almost 15 months.
Okay. 15 months ago, I had just come out of this barber shop and I got my hair cut. And I don't have much hair, but I still go get my hair cut. Okay. I walk out and I see this young man standing in the parking lot, like kind of like looking around for stuff, looking on the ground. And I go, oh, it's like Steve, right? It's like Steve Kidd. And he turns around, and so he doesn't see me. I'm probably like 40, 50 feet away from him. And he doesn't see me, but he just kind of has his mind on other things at the time, right? And I call out to him, Steve, and he looks around. And he spins all the way around. He doesn't see me, right? And then I say it again, and he looks up in the sky, right? He looks up for where's this voice coming from, right? And that's how our mind gets, right? When we're out there doing the things that we do as addicts and alcoholics, right? But I'll never forget, he looks up in the sky, and then I put my hands up to my mouth and I cup my mouth to like, get a message to him, straight to him, right? Just, hey, Steve, I'm over here. And then he looks, and I wave to him, and then he comes walking over, right? And my heart just sank because I could see he was in a place, right? A really low place. And I could tell that he's probably lost as much weight as a person could lose on his frame, the size of his frame. And we just started talking. And he shared some things. And one of the things he did share, I'll ask him to, kind of expand on it, but he did share that he had helped save a kid's life while he was out there with Narcan. And so we were talking a little bit about that, and then talking about, hey, what do you want to do? You need some help. I said that to him, with Steve, you need some help, man. You don't have any more weight to lose. And at that time, he goes, well, I want some help. And so I had suggested that, he talked to Kent Hay down at Ray Hope, and there was this program that could help him with housing and with treatment. And then he come into our office with the next couple of days, and I'll connect him to get an assessment so we could kind of fast track him into treatment. And lo and behold, he suited up and showed up, right? And I'll tell you, from my experience, when you're in your active addiction, one of the hardest things to do is to follow through with an appointment, right? For yourself. And it's even harder if there's a couple days in between, because a lot of things can happen to us out there. But I say that to say, and I tell this to Steve, and I say this in front of our staff, that he's like the poster man for recovering and turning his life around, and I'm so proud of this guy, so darn proud. So anyway, thanks for letting me share that, Steve, and just kind of, if you could recall kind of where you felt like you were back then, and kind of, how long were you in that space, do you think, before you made that jump, that change?
So, it's a little history. So when I left the program before, I went to go take care of a girl that I've been on and off with for like 10 years who was diagnosed with cancer. So she had passed away in April, right? When I saw you, that was August. So after Lauren passed away and I went out to the streets, I was out in that mindset for probably a good 3-4 months. I had lost a lot of weight. Put it this way, I was only like 150 pounds before I went to the street, but I was 125 pounds at that point when I got into treatment.
And how tall are you, like 6 feet?
I'm 6 feet tall, yeah. So I was pretty much a walking skeleton. No other way to put it. But so I was probably in that mindset for like 3 or 4 months, and I knew, I had told myself after Laura passed away I was going to go back to treatment, because we were both using together for like the year and a half back, before she passed away. So I was in that mindset for a good 3-4 months. So running into you, that was kind of like a blessing, because I definitely needed. I definitely kept telling myself, like, this is the end of the summer. It's not going to be weather where I want to be out in this stuff, So yeah, it was a while. And like I said, I had met Kent Hay because he had given me Narcan one morning over by the Fred Meyer, and it was literally the first time I'd ever had Narcan on me. And then later that night, this kid overdosed right in front of me, and I was like, oh wow, I have Narcan. It was just one of those weird moments, It was just almost like it was fate,
Yeah.
And yes, and I remember the kid that overdosed, he wasn't really someone who used drugs. He had just been out. He just ran up to us like out of nowhere as we were all talking, and he had like broken up with his girlfriend, so he was just kind of like wandering around because him and his girl got into a fight and he had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And sure enough, we started smoking fentanyl to someone, and he didn't even really know he was smoking. So it was just kind of, it was really like I would say, pretty much fate,
Sure.
So.
Well, you were definitely a blessing in his life, man. Right? It's just all lined up for everybody.
Definitely.
Man. So you got up and dusted yourself off, and here you are. And so kind of tell us a little bit about now where you see yourself, what you're doing, and kind of where your heart's leading you.
That's a good question. So I obviously I do peer counseling and casework here at AAHAA. I'm thinking about going back to school to do my SUDP. I haven't really decided fully on that yet, but that's where I told myself I was going to go. So I'm still exploring that option.
Okay.
So yeah.
Good, Steve. Good. Yeah, I just want to thank you for sharing your testimony, man. I want to thank you for just your leadership. And just so you know that Steve is not just a peer support person here for us at AAHAA, but he's also a manager at one of our houses. And so he's leading people and mentoring people down the same path that he came from, right? So he's definitely making a difference in people's lives, both here and out in our housing community. And he's leading by example. And I think, like I said, he's a living testimony and living proof that no matter where you're at or what's going on or how deep the hole is, there's a way out, right? And sometimes it takes a few times, right? And most of the addicts and alcoholics that I know, including myself, it took a few times, man, right? I didn't do it the very first time and get it and stay that way the rest of my life. It took a few times. And so if you're struggling out there and you need some help, reach out to somebody. It's okay. You don't need to be ashamed or embarrassed. A lot of us go through it, and it's okay, right? Let someone help you help yourself, and because, that's the path you want to go down. Our lives have never gotten better as a result of drugs and alcohol, and my life never got better, right? It's gotten better, as I got into recovery and start taking care of myself. And when you look at Steve Kidd, you see that, man. You see that living, walking testimony miracle, right? And again, I can't say enough. We're just so proud of you, Steve. Love you, man, and thanks for coming in.
Thank you for listening to the What's Up Wednesday podcast. Tune in for more addiction recovery content by AAHAA Supportive Housing.